If someone had told me I'd become a $10 million contract bride, I would have laughed and gone back to scrolling job listings. 12 champagne flutes smashed into the $50,000 ivory white suit. In that catastrophic instant, CEO Victoria Hawley didn't register it as a mishap. She recognized it as leverage. With a looming scandal threatening to topple her empire, she needed protection. The shaking waitress before her was that protection. This is the tale of a $10 million contract, a staged marriage, and a love no one saw coming. Floor 98. Lennon Hatton sprawled beneath the penthouse's thick glass, a glittering patchwork of conquered ambitions. Yet tonight, those lights seemed to smear at Victoria Hawley. She stood perfectly still. No longer in her commanding boardroom power suit, but wrapped in charcoal gray cashmere silk. Her jet black hair, usually twisted into a flawless bun, now spilling over her shoulders. That softness was nothing but a facade. On the 8K plasma screen on the wall, the one she usually used to track global stock markets, was playing a different image. It was her, Victoria, laughing, a rare smile, almost relaxed. On the deck of a luxury yacht in Leora Bay. Sitting next to her, also beaming, was Serena Locke, her biggest rival. The one she had just defeated in a hostile telecom deal 3 weeks ago. The photo was candid, but the caption running beneath it was not subtle. Alliance or manipulation. CEO Hawley and Locke celebrate joint victory. Shareholders question. This photo was a bomb. It didn't just imply she celebrated with the enemy. It implied that the entire bidding war was just a stage play to manipulate the market. A federal crime. The glass of 50-year-old lanolin whiskey on the marble table was untouched, the ice melting slowly. Victoria wasn't angry. Anger was a wasted emotion, a luxury she didn't have time for, she calculated. Her phone buzzed. Not the dozens of calls from her PR team. She had silenced them. This was her personal line. Uncle Richard, interim chairman of the board, the executive of her father's will, Victoria. His voice had no familial warmth, only the sound of steel striking flint. The board is not happy. Tabloid news, Richard? We don't react to tabloid news, Victoria said, her voice even as cold as the glass she was looking out of. This photo isn't tabloid. It's a threat. It strikes directly at the morality clause. Victoria clenched her hand slightly. The morality clause, the trap her father had left in his will, a way to control her even from the grave. To officially inherit the chairman's seat and full voting rights, she didn't just need profits. She needed to be stable. She needed to present a family image. They think sleeping with Serena to manipulate the market? Victoria asked, a hint of sarcasm creeping into her voice. They think you are a risk factor, Victoria. They're considering activating the clause. They need assurance. They need stability. You have 48 hours to show them that stability. Before the emergency shareholder meeting, the call ended. Stability. Such a boring word. In Victoria's world, stable was synonymous with losing. But now it was her only life raft. She looked back at the photo. Serena looked great in the emerald bikini. A stupid mistake. A short vacation after a tiring victory. But the media didn't care about the truth. They cared about blood. Victoria needed a PR shield. Something strong, personal, and unquestionable. Something that could erase the predator image full of risk that Serena even unintentionally had created. She needed something soft to hide all her sharp edges. She looked at her schedule. Tonight, the Hawley Annual Charity Gala. A PR nightmare waiting to happen. She had to go. Stability, she muttered. Fine. Victoria picked up the phone, but didn't call her legal team. She called her assistant, Carla, prepare the white Galliano suit, and tell the security team to run background checks on all the catering staff at tonight's event. I want to know everything. If she needed stability, she would create it. Do you like this story? Please comment your favorite character and press follow so you don't miss the next part. The gala was a sea of fake people. The clinking of glasses, the whispers, and the constant flash of cameras from the end of the tightly controlled red carpet. Victoria Hawley entered like an ice queen. The ivory white Galliano suit was perfectly tailored, its satin silk lapels contrasting sharply with her black hair. She did not smile. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough to quiet the room by several dB. All eyes were on her, searching for signs of weakness of the media storm. They found nothing. Her face was a perfect mask of aristocratic indifference. 50 meters away in the cramped service area behind the stage, Lena Cruz was trying to stop her hands from shaking. Cruz, 4 trays of champagne for the VIP section. Now Lena jumped. Yes, manager. She hated these events. She hated the smell of expensive perfume mixed with the quiet desperation of the servers. She was only here for the triple tips. Her sister Emma needed a new medication. The kind insurance didn't cover. The phone in her apron pocket vibrated. It was Mount C Hospital. Sis, Emma is having trouble breathing again. The doctor wants to talk to you. Lena's heart clenched. She took a deep breath, lifted the heavy champagne tray. The delicate crystal glasses rattled precariously. Just go one step at a time. For Emma, she stepped out from the logistics area into the high society crowd. Her eyes were glued to the steps leading to the VIP section, trying to balance the tray in her collapsing world. She didn't see the drunk guests stumbling backward. She didn't see the cold gaze of Victoria Hawley scanning the crowd. Watch out. A hard collision. Time seemed to slow. Lena staggered. The flute glasses tilted. A muffled scream. And then crash, splash, the entire tray of champagne. 12 glasses exactly came crashing down. Not onto the floor, but onto the ivory white Galliano suit of Victoria Hawley. The room held its breath. The soft music died. Every eye, every paparazzi lens, though they weren't supposed to be in here, turned towards the ICE CEO and the trembling waitress. Champagne dripped from Victoria's silk lapels onto her linenolo blondic shoes. Lena stood frozen, her face pale. She was dead. She would be fired, sued, thrown in jail for staining an outfit probably worth more than her life. 2 large security guards rushed forward, ready to drag Lena away. Stop. Victoria's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the silence like a knife. The security guards froze. Victoria Hawley slowly looked down at the pale yellow stain spreading across her chest. She showed no emotion. Then she raised her head, her cold gray eyes locking onto Lena's. It was a look devoid of anger. It was worse. It was analytical, as if she was looking at a number on a balance sheet that had just turned red. Lena trembled. I am sorry, Miss Hawley, I didn't mean to. Victoria didn't answer her. She motioned to an assistant. Bring napkins. Then she looked back at Lena, her gaze piercing. And you, she said, her voice low and clear. Come with me. The VIP lounge behind the stage was another world. Eerily quiet minimalist luxury, only the hum of an air purifier. Victoria had taken off the ruined suit jacket, revealing the silk shirt underneath. She was standing by the window, looking down at the park, her back to Lena. Lena stood huddled near the door, wringing her damp apron. She had cried on the way here. They're going to dock my pay, Lena whispered mostly to herself. Oh God, I can't afford that jacket. The jacket doesn't matter, Victoria said, still not turning around. Her calm voice made Lena even more afraid. I'm really sorry. It'll do anything. What's your name? Victoria interrupted. Lena Cruz. Lena Cruz, Victoria repeated as if tasting the name. She turned. On her phone was a quick summary her security team had just sent. Perfect. 24 years old, no family except one sister. Emma Cruz, congenital heart disease, awaiting surgery at Mount C, unpaid bills. $54,210. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. How did you know? I know everything that happens in my buildings. Miss Cruz, Victoria set the phone down. You are desperate. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. My sister, she needs the surgery. Lena stammered, tears welling up again. It'll do anything? Anything? Victoria stepped forward, and for the first time, Lena saw the CEO's eyes clearly. They weren't cold. They were empty, a carefully crafted emptiness. Victoria stopped just a few feet from Lena. I will pay all of Emma's bills. The surgery, post-op care, the best specialists, everything. Lena was stunned. What'd you say? And Victoria continued as if negotiating a merger. I will give you $10 million. The room spun. Lena had to grab the arm of a chair to keep from falling. $10 million for what? In exchange for what? Victoria looked directly into Lena's eyes. Her gaze held no hesitation, only purpose. In exchange for 1 year of your life. She slid a thin prepared file across the mahogany coffee table. It had been there before Lena even walked in. A marriage! You will marry me tomorrow at City Hall. You will move into my penthouse. You will play the part of a devoted wife for the board and the media. You will smile when told. You will hold my hand at events. And most importantly, you will remain silent. Lena looked at the contract. The words swam before her eyes. Non-disclosure agreement. 12-month term compensation. Why? Lena whispered, unable to understand. Why me? Because you were there. Because you have nothing to lose, and I have everything. Because Victoria paused, a flicker of something almost like exhaustion in her eyes. I need stability. And you, Miss Cruz, are the perfect accident. Lena looked at Victoria. This woman was talking about buying a person. Buying her? Are you insane? Lena blurted out. I am practical. Victoria retorted, unflinching. Your sister has 72 hours before they take her off the surgery list for lack of insurance. I have 48 hours before my board strips me of everything. She pointed to the contract. $10 million. And your sister's life in exchange for your signature. Lena looked down at the paper, her vision blurred. This was a deal with the devil wearing a Galliano suit. Victoria turned back to the window, her voice echoing in the silence. A $10 million contract, the cruelest clause. Victoria closed her eyes, thinking of Richard, thinking of the board, thinking of the freedom she was about to buy this way. She will have to say my name during the ceremony. And she will have to do it like she actually means it. The VIP lounge was as stuffy as a tomb. $10 million. Emma's life. In exchange for a marriage, Lena's head was spinning. She took a step back, bumping into the velvet chair. I can't. This is illegal. This is a binding contract. Victoria interrupted, her voice unwavering. My legal team drafted it to withstand all scrutiny. Technically, it's an extremely strict prenuptial agreement attached to a personal services contract. It is unbreakable. She pushed a solid gold Mont Blanc pen towards Lena. The pen lay on the contract, glittering maliciously under the spotlight. I am not a prostitute, Lena seethed, fear beginning to give way to a smoldering anger. For the first time that night, something like amusement flickered in Victoria's eyes. I am not buying sex. I am buying stability. You are a variable I can control. You're clean. You're desperate. You won't betray me because you have more to lose than I do. Victoria glanced at the Patek Philippe watch on her wrist. I don't have much time and neither does your sister. As soon as that sentence was uttered, as if arranged by a cruel fate, the cheap phone in Lena's apron pocket vibrated violently. The jarring sound shattered the expensive silence. Lena shakily pulled out her phone. The words Mount Sinai Hospital flashed on the cracked screen. She looked at Victoria, then at the phone. Her hand holding the phone was uncontrollable. Victoria simply raised an eyebrow. Answer it. Lena pressed the answer button, pressing the phone to her ear. Miss Cruz, the night nurse's voice was tired. I'm calling to inform you that Emma's condition is worsening. We need to put her on the emergency surgery list. But, as we discussed, the finance department has flagged your account. Without a down payment by tomorrow morning, the nurse's voice faded. Everything in Lena collapsed. No more pride, no more anger, only the abyss. She looked at Victoria, the woman standing there, completely calm, as if watching a play she already knew the ending to. Victoria was the storm and also the only shelter. Lena hung up the phone without a word. She walked to the table. Her hand was still shaking, but this time it was with resolve. She picked up the pen. It was surprisingly cold and heavy. She flipped to the last page. The line for Lena Cruz was waiting. She didn't read the terms. She didn't care about the $10 million. She only saw Emma's pale face. Scratch. The sound of the nib dragging across the paper was the only noise in the room. She signed her name. She had just sold her soul to a woman in a white suit. As soon as the pen was lifted, Victoria took the folder. She didn't check the signature. She knew it was there. Carla. Victoria spoke into the earpiece Lena hadn't even realized she was wearing. The door opened almost instantly. The assistant Carla entered holding an iPad. Carla transferred $250,000 to Mount Si prepayment account under Emma Cruz's name. Immediately ensure the surgery is scheduled for 7 a.m. tomorrow, Dr. Ethan. Only him, Victoria commanded. Understood, Miss Hawley. And Victoria turned to Lena, her gaze like steel. Prepare a white dress, size 4, and call my media team. Inform them of a sudden personal announcement at City Hall, 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. Victoria buttoned her silk shirt, covering the champagne stain that had begun to dry. Welcome to the Harley family. Miss Cruz, call me Victoria. 9:00 a.m. Manhattan City Hall. A media frenzy. The crowd of paparazzi and reporters was suffocating, held back behind police barricades. They had been tipped off by someone. They came here expecting Victoria Hawley to explain the Serena Locke scandal. They were not expecting this. A jet black Linnebach pulled up. Victoria stepped out. Not in last night's stained white suit. She wore a sharp, powerful, dark navy suit. Her hair was in a perfect bun. She did not look at the crowd. Then another black SUV pulled up. The door opened. Lena stepped out. She was like a deer caught in a pack of wolves. She was wearing the simple white dress that Carla had given her an hour ago. It fit frighteningly well. Her hair was brushed, but her face was pale, her eyes swollen from lack of sleep and crying. The flashes exploded like a lightning storm. The reporters' shouts were deafening. Victoria, who is this? Miss Hawley, what about Serena Locke? Is this how you're shutting down the rumors? 2 large bodyguards shielded Lena, almost carrying her through the chaotic crowd and up the marble steps. Victoria was waiting for her at the door. As Lena approached, Victoria did something Lena was not prepared for. Victoria held out her hand. Lena stared at the hand. It was perfectly manicured, flawless. For the cameras, Victoria whispered, her voice low enough for only Lena to hear. Take my hand and try not to look like you're walking to the gallows. Lena took a breath and placed her rough, calloused hand, a waitress hand, into the billionaire's soft one. Victoria's hand was ice cold. They walked inside, the flashes still popping madly behind them. The ceremony took place in a small private room with only a judge, Carla as a witness, and Victoria's lawyer. No flowers, no music, just the smell of old polished wood and dust. The judge, a tired-out-looking man, shuffled papers. He had clearly been taken care of to expedite this. Do you have vows prepared? He asked, clearing his throat. We will use the standard ones, Victoria replied immediately, her voice echoing in the wooden room. They turned to face each other. Lena couldn't look Victoria in the eye. She stared at the platinum cufflink on Victoria's sleeve. Victoria's voice rang out clear and decisive as she repeated the vows. I, Victoria, take Lena to be my wife. Each word articulated with the precision of a board meeting. Miss Cruz, Victoria set the phone down. You are desperate. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. My sister, she needs the surgery. Lena stammered, tears welling up again. It'll do anything? Anything? Victoria stepped forward, and for the first time, Lena saw the CEO's eyes clearly. They weren't cold. They were empty, a carefully crafted emptiness. Victoria stopped just a few feet from Lena. I will pay all of Emma's bills. The surgery, post-op care, the best specialists, everything. Lena was stunned. What did you say? And Victoria continued as if negotiating a merger. I will give you $10 million. The room spun. Lena had to grab the arm of a chair to keep from falling. $10 million for what? In exchange for what? Victoria looked directly into Lena's eyes. Her gaze held no hesitation, only purpose. In exchange for 1 year of your life. She slid a thin prepared file across the mahogany coffee table. It had been there before Lena even walked in. A marriage. You will marry me tomorrow at City Hall. You will move into my penthouse. You will play the part of a devoted wife for the board and the media. You will smile when told. You will hold my hand at events. And most importantly, you will remain silent. Lena looked at the contract. The words swam before her eyes. Non-disclosure agreement. 12-month term compensation. Why? Lena whispered, unable to understand. Why me? Because you were there. Because you have nothing to lose and I have everything. Because Victoria paused a flicker of something almost like exhaustion in her eyes. I need stability. And you, Miss Cruz, are the perfect accident. Lena looked at Victoria. This woman was talking about buying a person. Buying her? Are you insane? Lena blurted out. I am practical. Victoria retorted unflinching. Your sister has 72 hours before they take her off the surgery list for lack of insurance. I have 48 hours before my board strips me of everything. She pointed to the contract. $10 million. And your sister's life in exchange for your signature. Lena looked down at the paper, her vision blurred. This was a deal with the devil, wearing a Galliano suit. Victoria turned back to the window, her voice echoing in the silence. A $10 million contract, the cruelest clause. Victoria closed her eyes, thinking of Richard, thinking of the board, thinking of the freedom she was about to buy this way. She will have to say my name during the ceremony. And she will have to do it like she actually means it. The VIP lounge was as stuffy as a tomb. $10 million. Emma's life. In exchange for a marriage, Lena's head was spinning. She took a step back, bumping into the velvet chair. I can't. This is illegal. This is a binding contract. Victoria interrupted, her voice unwavering. My legal team drafted it to withstand all scrutiny. Technically, it's an extremely strict prenuptial agreement attached to a personal services contract. It is unbreakable. She pushed a solid gold Mont Blanc pen towards Lena. The pen lay on the contract, glittering maliciously under the spotlight. I am not a prostitute, Lena seethed, fear beginning to give way to a smoldering anger. For the first time that night, something like amusement flickered in Victoria's eyes. I am not buying sex. I am buying stability. You're a variable I can control. You're clean. You're desperate. You won't betray me because you have more to lose than I do. Victoria glanced at the Patek Philippe watch on her wrist. I don't have much time and neither does your sister. As soon as that sentence was uttered, as if arranged by a cruel fate, the cheap phone in Lena's apron pocket vibrated violently. The jarring sound shattered the expensive silence. Lena shakily pulled out her phone. The words Mount Sinai Hospital flashed on the cracked screen. She looked at Victoria, then at the phone. Her hand holding the phone was uncontrollable. Victoria simply raised an eyebrow. Answer it. Lena pressed the answer button, pressing the phone to her ear. Miss Cruz, the night nurse's voice was tired. I'm calling to inform you that Emma's condition is worsening. We need to put her on the emergency surgery list. But, as we discussed, the finance department has flagged your account. Without a down payment by tomorrow morning, the nurse's voice faded. Everything in Lena collapsed. No more pride, no more anger, only the abyss. She looked at Victoria, the woman standing there, completely calm, as if watching a play she already knew the ending to. Victoria was the storm and also the only shelter. Lena hung up the phone without a word. She walked to the table. Her hand was still shaking, but this time it was with resolve. She picked up the pen. It was surprisingly cold and heavy. She flipped to the last page. The line for Lena Cruz was waiting. She didn't read the terms. She didn't care about the $10 million. She only saw Emma's pale face. Scratch. The sound of the nib dragging across the paper was the only noise in the room. She signed her name. She had just sold her soul to a woman in a white suit. As soon as the pen was lifted, Victoria took the folder. She didn't check the signature. She knew it was there. Carla. Victoria spoke into the earpiece Lena hadn't even realized she was wearing. The door opened almost instantly. The assistant, Carla, entered holding an iPad. Carla transferred $250,000 to Mount Si prepayment account under Emma Cruz's name. Immediately ensure the surgery is scheduled for 7 a.m. tomorrow, Dr. Ethan. Only him, Victoria commanded. Understood, Miss Halle. And Victoria turned to Lena, her gaze like steel. Prepare a white dress, size 4, and call my media team. Inform them of a sudden personal announcement at City Hall, 900 a.m. tomorrow. Victoria, buttoned her silk shirt, covering the champagne stain that had begun to dry. Welcome to the Halle family. Miss Cruz, call me Victoria. 900 a.m., Leonhattan City Hall. A media frenzy. The crowd of paparazzi and reporters was suffocating, held back behind police barricades. They had been tipped off by someone. They came here expecting Victoria Halle to explain the Serena Locke scandal. They were not expecting this. A jet black Linibach pulled up. Victoria stepped out. Not in last night's stained white suit. She wore a sharp, powerful, dark navy suit. Her hair was in a perfect bun. She did not look at the crowd. Then another black SUV pulled up. The door opened. Lena stepped out. She was like a deer caught in a pack of wolves. She was wearing the simple white dress that Carla had given her an hour ago. It fit frighteningly well. Her hair was brushed, but her face was pale, her eyes swollen from lack of sleep and crying. The flashes exploded like a lightning storm. The reporters' shouts were deafening. Victoria, who is this? Miss Halle, what about Serena Locke? Is this how you're shutting down the rumors? 2 large bodyguards shielded Lena, almost carrying her through the chaotic crowd and up the marble steps. Victoria was waiting for her at the door. As Lena approached, Victoria did something Lena was not prepared for. Victoria held out her hand. Lena stared at the hand. It was perfectly manicured, flawless. For the cameras, Victoria whispered, her voice low enough for only Lena to hear. Take my hand and try not to look like you're walking to the gallows. Lena took a breath and placed her rough, calloused hand, a waitress hand, into the billionaire's soft one. Victoria's hand was ice cold. They walked inside, the flashes still popping madly behind them. The ceremony took place in a small private room with only a judge, Carla as a witness, and Victoria's lawyer. No flowers, no music, just the smell of old polished wood and dust. The judge, a tired-out-looking man, shuffled papers. He had clearly been taken care of to expedite this. Do you have vows prepared? He asked, clearing his throat. We will use the standard ones, Victoria replied immediately, her voice echoing in the wooden room. They turned to face each other. Lena couldn't look Victoria in the eye. She stared at the platinum cufflink on Victoria's sleeve. Victoria's voice rang out clear and decisive as she repeated the vows. I, Victoria, take Lena to be my wife. Each word articulated with the precision of a board meeting. It was Lena's turn. She stammered, her voice barely audible. I, Lena, take Victoria. She felt like she was lying in front of God, even though she wasn't religious. Judge, Victoria's lawyer interjected. She said, I do. All right, the judge nodded, clearly wanting this over with. The rings. Carla stepped forward, offering a black velvet box. Not 1, but 2 rings. Victoria took the larger one, a simple but thick platinum band. No diamonds. It looked more like property than a symbol of love. She grabbed Lena's left hand. Lena reflexively tried to pull it back, but Victoria held it tight. Victoria slid the ring onto Lena's ring finger. It was cold and fit perfectly. Lena had no ring for Victoria. Victoria had prepared for that. She took the remaining ring identical to Lena's and slid it onto her own finger, as if she were closing a transaction with herself. By the power vested in me, the judge said quickly, I now pronounce you wife of legal partners. You may kiss your partner. Lena froze. Oh no, this was not in the contract. Before she could react, Victoria moved. The cameras Victoria's own PR team blended in started clicking. Victoria placed one hand on Lena's waist, pulling her close. Lena smelled Victoria's perfume, a sharp, expensive scent of bergamot and cedar for the good of the company. Victoria whispered against her lips, and then she kissed Lena. It was not a kiss. It was an acquisition. Victoria's lips were soft but firm. A quick, emotionless press that looked passionate for the cameras. It lasted only 3 seconds. Click, click. The perfect photo. The ICE CEO, in a sudden romantic gesture, kisses her mysterious bride. The Serena Locke scandal had just been buried. Victoria pulled back, her face as blank as ever. We're done, she said to her lawyer. She turned and walked away, leaving Lena standing there numb, the bitter taste of the contract and Victoria's perfume on her lips. There was no fake intimate dinner, no reception. Lena was driven to the 98th floor penthouse in the same black SUV alone, except for the silent driver. When the private elevator doors opened, she stepped into an impossibly large space. White marble floors, minimalist furniture that looked more like sculpture than seating, and walls of glass wrapping around all of Manhattan. It was terrifyingly beautiful, like living inside a diamond. Miss Cruz. Miss Halley. Carla was waiting for her in the elevator lobby, still holding the iPad. Miss Victoria is currently in an emergency board meeting, presenting the new situation. She requested I show you to your room. Her room, not their room? Lena felt a strange sense of relief. Carla led her down a hallway as long as an art gallery. They passed the main living area where Victoria had made her offer last night. Carla pointed to another hallway on the opposite side. That is the East Wing, Miss Victoria's private bedroom and office. That area is private, absolutely. They headed to the West Wing. This is your wing, Carla said, opening a set of double doors. It was not a room. It was an apartment. It had its own living room, a marble bathroom bigger than Lena's old apartment, and a bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. The small duffel bag Lena had hastily packed this morning. A few old clothes, a toothbrush, and the photo of Emma looked pathetic sitting on the expensive silk rug. The wardrobe has been stocked, Carla said, pointing to another door. A stylist will arrive tomorrow. Dinner will be served at 8 p.m. Miss Victoria will be dining with you in the main dining room. This is a request for appearance purposes for the staff. Carla handed Lena the iPad. This is your schedule. Everything you need to know is on here. Wake-up times, appointments, fittings, hair, required events you must attend with Miss Victoria, and the terms of the contract you signed. Do not lose it. The assistant paused at the door. And Miss Halley, congratulations on your wedding. The door clicked shut with a soft, definitive finality. Lena stood alone in the vast silence. She walked to the window. The sun was setting, staining the river red. She had saved Emma. She had done it. So why did she feel like she had just jumped off a building? Dinner was silent torture. Victoria appeared at 8 p.m. sharp, having changed into her gray cashmere lounge suit. They ate at a 12-seat table, sitting at opposite ends. The food, something elaborate and expensive, tasted like ash in Lena's mouth. They did not speak except for Victoria to issue a directive. Your sister is out of surgery. Dr. Ethan reports it was a complete success, Victoria announced as if reporting the weather. Lena burst into tears. A choked sob of relief. Thank you. Don't thank me, Victoria said, not looking up from her salad. This was a transaction. You held up your end of the bargain this morning. The photo is out. The board is backed off for now. After dinner, Victoria stood. I have work in my office. Don't wait up. And Lena looked up. The contract stipulates you are to remain in your wing after 10 p.m. unless I call for you. Do not forget that Victoria left, leaving Lena alone with the silver plates. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She stood by the window in her magnificent room, looking down at the city that never slept. She didn't belong here. She was a prisoner in a glass tower. She looked down at her hand. The ring felt heavy on her finger. It was colder than Victoria's eyes had been on her penthouse wedding night. 2 weeks. Lena had lived in this glass tower for 2 weeks. 2 weeks passed in a luxurious silence, interrupted only by the beep of the iPad, announcing her daily schedule. 7 a.m. wake up. A personal trainer will be waiting in the private gym at 7:39 a.m. breakfast alone. 10 a.m. study contemporary art history preparation for the museum gala. 12 p.m. lunch alone, 2 p.m. fittings. Her life was now a micromanaged transaction. The reward in return was the daily video messages from Mount C where Emma was recovering, her cheeks regaining color. Her sister thought Lena had won the lottery, marrying a wonderful but busy woman. She's so good, Lena, Emma whispered over the phone yesterday. You must love her so much. Lena had dry heaved in the marble sink after that call. Today was the gala, their first major social event since City Hall. The Serena Locke PR nightmare had died down, replaced by a new media frenzy. Victoria Hale's mysterious Cinderella bride. They needed a perfect performance tonight to solidify the lie. Victoria had been absent for the past 2 weeks, lightning trips to Elstate and Oshima. But today she was here, and she was running the final fitting like a 5-star general. No, Victoria said, her voice echoing in Lena's vast dressing room. That necklace is too ostentatious. It makes her look like she's trying. The stylist, a thin man named Julian, winced. But Miss Hawley, this is the heart of the ocean diamond. It makes her look bought. I want subtlety. Use the Awia pearls. They give a family legacy feel. Victoria was circling Lena, assessing her not as a wife, but as a strategic asset. Lena was wearing a deep sapphire blue silk gown that clung to her body. It was painfully beautiful and daringly backless. Posture. Victoria snapped her fingers. Stand up straight, Cruz. Lena, who was used to being called Lena on her schedule, flinched at the name Cruz. Ma'am Lena, tonight you are Mrs. Hawley, Victoria retorted, her eyes cold. And Mrs. Hawley does not slouch. She does not fidget. She does not look at the floor as if she just dropped a tray. The cruelty of the statement made Lena flush. Victoria didn't care. She picked up another iPad, her own copy, and held it up. The screen displayed images of 10 older men and women. Identify, Victoria commanded. Mai pointed to the third photo. Judge Harrison. He sits on the board of the hospital. Good, this one. Senator Whitmore. His wife's name is Eleanor. Correct. Never forget the wives' names. They are the ones who hold the real power at these parties. You smile at them, compliment their jewelry, and listen to them. You are the warm one. You are the one that I, the cold one, fell in love with. Victoria stepped forward and Julian quickly stepped back. Victoria adjusted the fold on the shoulder of Lena's gown. Her fingers brushed Lena's collarbone, icy but precise. When I take your hand, Victoria ordered, her voice low. Don't grip it like a drowning person. Lace your fingers through mine gently but firmly, like you want to touch me. Victoria took Lena's hand to demonstrate. Lena's hand was calloused from work. Victoria's was soft but held a frightening underlying strength. When we dance, and we will have to dance one dance, you place your hand on my shoulder. You look at me. Not at my shoes, not at the exit. At me, what am I supposed to see in you? Lena blurted, exhaustion and anger finally spilling over. Victoria paused. She looked directly into Lena's eyes. The space between them was only a few inches. Lena could see the tiny flecks of gold in Victoria's gray irises. "You will see the woman who is holding your sister's life in her hands," Victoria whispered, her voice calmly ruthless. "And you will smile at me as if you have never seen anything more beautiful." The Museum of Modern Art, Mama Gala, was where money, power, and art met in a dazzling display of self-congratulation. The Lumi box stopped. As soon as the door opened, a forest of flashes exploded. "It's time," Victoria said, her voice even. She stepped out first. The press roared. Victoria, in a tailored black suit with silk lapels, looked like a Black Panther. Then she turned and offered her hand to Lena. Lena took a breath. She remembered the instruction. Not a drowning person. She stepped out, the lights blinding her. The sapphire dress glittered. A collective ooh went up from the crowd. She placed her hand in Victoria's. Victoria laced her fingers through Lena's gently but firmly. "Perfect. Victoria, Lena, over here." They stood on the red carpet, a perfect picture of contrast. The Ice Queen and the new bloom. Victoria was cool. Lena was warm, or at least so terrified she looked adorably shy. They went inside through the marble halls. Victoria kept her hand on Lena's waist, a public gesture of possession. Lena felt like she was wearing a Halloween costume. "That's Senator Whitmore," Victoria whispered in her ear, her breath brushing Lena's hair. "Prepare to smile," Lena performed. She smiled at Eleanor. She complimented her necklace. She listened to a 10-minute story about her poodle. Victoria stood beside her, smiling slightly, a look of fake pride. It was working. Lena could feel it. People were buying it. The play was almost perfect until it wasn't. They were standing near the museum's grand glass staircase, preparing to descend to the main ballroom. Well, if it isn't the lucky bride." The voice was shrill, full of venom. Lena turned. A platinum blonde woman in a garish pink dress, Lenartini in hand, was staring at her. She wasn't on Victoria's identification list. Beside her was a reporter from the New York Post who had clearly snuck in. "Imbatric Duca," the blonde woman said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. "My father owned the shipping company Holly just destroyed last month." She looked Lena up and down. "Tell me, sweetie." Beatrice sneered. "What was your price? Which catering staff did she find you on?" The room around them suddenly went silent. A glass broke. Lena's mouth went dry. Her worst nightmare. Public humiliation. "Don't look at the floor." "Beatrice, you're drunk," Victoria said, her voice ice cold, taking a step to shield Lena. "Oh, I'm drunk on the truth." Beatrice cackled. "Everyone knows this is a joke. You married her to cover up the Serena Locke affair. She's a waitress, a contract, the words hung in the air. The Post reporter's camera went up. Everything Victoria had taught Lena vanished. The shame, the anger, the raw truth of her situation, they all hit at once. Lena recoiled instinctively. She stepped back, forgetting she was at the top of the glass staircase. Her heels slipped on the marble edge. A small O escaped her lips as she lost her balance. She fell backward. A disastrous fall. A perfect humiliation. The front page photo. The play was over. Swoosh. In a millisecond, before Lena's brain could even process the fall, a steel-like force clamped around her. Victoria had moved faster than Lena ever thought possible. She didn't just steady Lena. She had caught her. One of Victoria's arms wrapped around Lena's waist, pulling her into her body with a force that knocked the breath out of Lena. The other hand gripped her wrist. They stood like that for a frozen second. Lena was pressed against Victoria's chest, her face buried in the silk of Victoria's suit. She could feel Victoria's heartbeat. Or maybe it was her own thundering. She smelled bergamot and cedar. The entire hall held its breath. Then the flashes exploded. Click, 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 click. They didn't get the fall. They got the passionate save. Victoria Hale, the Ice Queen, was holding her new wife in a fierce embrace. Her eyes not on Lena, but on Beatrice Duca. Get out. Victoria growled. And Beatrice, pale at the undisguised fury, backed away. Victoria held Lena for one more second, a second too long. Lena looked up, her eyes wide, frightened, locked on Victoria's. Victoria was looking at her, and in that moment there was no calculation, just intensity. Then Victoria whispered, her voice and harsh for her alone. Get it together right now? She pulled Lena upright but didn't let her go. Her hand remained clamped on Lena's waist. She turned Lena towards the stunned crowd, smiling a cold smile. Apologies for the interruption. My wife and I would like to get to the ballroom, and she led Lena down the stairs, her hand still a band of hot steel on Lena's waist. The Lunibach was silent as a tomb on the way home. As soon as the door shut, Victoria released Lena as if she had been burned. Now they sat in opposite corners of the vast car. Lena was trembling not from cold, but from adrenaline. You almost ruined everything, Victoria finally spoke, her voice more tired than angry. Did I tell you what to do when provoked? You didn't, Lena whispered. You only taught me the wives' names. I taught you not to lose control. You lost control. She called me. Lena yelled, the anger finally erupting. In front of everyone. What did you expect me to do? Smile and compliment her necklace? Yes. Victoria snapped back, her composure breaking for the first time. That is exactly what I expected you to do. But Vaidon Vuo, you are paid to endure those insults. The truth of that statement hit Lena. She turned away, looking out the window where the lights of Manhattan blurred with tears. She would not cry. Not in front of her. They returned to the penthouse in heavy silence. Go to bed, Victoria ordered as the elevator opened. You have finance lessons at 9 a.m. Victoria walked towards the east wing, her forbidden zone. Lena walked towards the west wing, her gilded cage. Lena ripped off the sapphire dress, throwing it on the floor. She stood under a hot shower, scrubbing her skin, trying to wash off the feeling of the evening, the feeling of Victoria's hand on her waist. But in the east wing, Victoria Halle was not going to bed. She was in her office. The 8K plasma screen not showing the stock market, but the evening news. They were replaying the moment over and over. The photo of Victoria catching Lena on the stairs had gone viral. It was everywhere. A social commentator was speaking, her voice giddy. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was the moment of the night. Forget the speculation. There was nothing fake here. Look at the way Victoria Halle protected her wife. This isn't a CEO, this is a woman in love. The caption below, Ice Queen melts for love. Victoria stared at the screen. She hated it. It was a loss of control. It was an unnecessary risk. That fall was a disaster, but it had worked. It worked better than any play she had staged. She rewound the video slow. She saw the moment Lena lost her balance, and she saw herself move. No calculation, no thought, just reflex. She had caught Lena. She looked at her own hand, the one that had gripped Lena's waist. She could still feel Lena's weight, her fragility in the silk. Victoria Halle felt confused, a foreign, uncomfortable emotion. Meanwhile, in the West Wing, Lena had turned off the shower. She looked in the mirror. There was a faint finger-shaped bruise beginning to form on her waist where Victoria had grabbed her too tightly. She touched it. She held my hand for the cameras, a perfect handhold. That was fake! But that grip on my waist, she thought the trembling returning. That wasn't in the script. So was that warmth a lie, right? Victoria Halle hated chaos. She had built a multi-billion-dollar empire on order, data, and predictability. The gala night at Mama was a mess. Beatrice Duca was an unforeseen variable. Lena's fall was a failure of control. And the way she had caught Lena, that was an instinctive, illogical reflex. What bothered Victoria the most wasn't the incident, but the outcome. This morning's news wasn't talking about Beatrix's insults or Lena's clumsiness. They were praising the moment of the save. The Ice Queen Melts headline was everywhere. Holly Holdings stock had risen 3% at market open, a ridiculous response to a heartwarming PR story. The board loved it. Uncle Richard had sent a brief text. Good, keep it up. Victoria hated it. She hated that an uncontrolled action had yielded better results than all her meticulous plans. It made her feel exposed. She was in her East Wing office, a bunker of glass and steel overlooking the Manhattan dawn. She needed to regain control. And to control an asset, you must understand every facet of it. Lena Cruz, now Lena Holly, was her asset for another 11 months and 2 weeks. Carla, Victoria said over the intercom, the initial security briefing on Miss Cruz. I want the full one now. Mom, we already have, not the 30-INET summary you prepared at the gala. I want everything. Every credit card bill, every call, every debt. Dig deeper. Half an hour later, an encrypted file appeared on Victoria's secure desktop. Victoria read. The calm on her face didn't change, but her fingers tightened on the mouse. The $54,000 she had paid to Mount C was just the tip of the iceberg. The full report showed a completely different picture. Lena wasn't just poor. She was drowning. There were old medical debts for Emma from 2 years ago, passed through 3 different collection agencies. Predatory interest rates. There were payday loans at 40% interest. There were late credit card bills from trying to buy Emma's medication while waiting for insurance, which was denied. The total wasn't $54,000. The total was $310,450. Lena had lied, or more accurately, she had lied by omission. She had hidden the true extent of her desperation. To Victoria, this was worse than deception. It was a risk. Someone with that much debt was a target. Someone that desperate could be bought. Beatrice Duca could pay her to talk about the contract. The press could tempt her. Victoria could not have her wife, even a fake one, bound by third-party collection agencies. It was an unacceptable loose end. She picked up the phone. Carla, contact my personal finance department. I want every debt bearing the name Lena Cruz or Emma Cruz paid in full immediately and contact Mount C. I want an itemized breakdown of all of Emma's post-op care per pay, all of it. I want their records clean. Victoria hung up. She wasn't doing this out of kindness. This wasn't generosity. This was damage control. This was cleaning up an investment that was showing risk. She had just reinforced her firewall. She looked back at the photo on her screen, the one from the gala, the moment she held Lena. Now she understood. Lena wasn't just a variable. She was a ticking time bomb, and Victoria had just defused it. In the West Wing, Lena was having her first peaceful morning in weeks. Emma was out of the woods. Her sister was sitting up in her hospital bed, beaming on a FaceTime call. Lena, do you see the room? Emma giggled, panning her phone camera around the hospital room. It's like a hotel, they said. Miss Victoria requested a special upgrade. The head nurse keeps asking me if I need anything. I think they're scared of her. Lena forced a smile. I'm glad you're being taken care of, sweetie. Taken care of? It's amazing, Emma said. And Lena, thank God Victoria took care of, everything. You mean the surgery, right? Lena said, the familiar guilt twisting in her chest. Not just that, a man from finance came by this morning. He looked really serious, Emma recounted. He told me all the old bills, even the ones from last year that you used to cry about, they've all been resolved. Miss Victoria paid for everything. Lena's smile went rigid. What did you say? Yes, I know. Emma sighed. I told him it had to be a mistake. It was so much money. But he said no mistake. Miss Holly requested the entire balance be cleared. Lena, she's a saint. The phone slipped from Lena's numb fingers, landing without a sound on the thick silk rug. Cleared the entire balance. The old bills. The money Lena had hidden. The money she would rather die than let anyone see the secret weight that pressed on her every night when she tried to sleep. Victoria knew. Victoria hadn't just paid for the surgery like she promised. She had investigated her. She had dug through her ugly, humiliating financial history. She had inspected every failure, every frantic loan. This wasn't generosity. It was intrusion. The relief Lena had felt over Emma's safety evaporated, replaced by a cold, slow-burning fury. The bruise on her waist from last night where Victoria's hand had gripped her suddenly ached. Victoria hadn't only pulled her back from the stairwell. She was tightening her grip. Miss Victoria paid for everything. Lena picked up the phone again. Emma, I have to go. I love you. She ended the call before Emma could answer. She walked out of her luxurious bedroom without another thought. She didn't bother changing out of her cashmere pajamas. Barefoot, she crossed the cold marble floors. The household staff, who usually kept their eyes down, stared in open surprise as she passed. The new Mrs. Hawley never came out of the West Wing before noon. Lena didn't care. She strode across the vast main hall, the neutral territory that separated their two worlds. Then she headed straight for the East Wing corridor, the forbidden side. Carla stood posted outside Victoria's office like a guard. Miss Hawley, Carla said, voice stiff. Miss Victoria is busy. I can. Lena walked right past her as if she were invisible and shoved the heavy mahogany double doors open. Boom! Victoria Hawley glanced up from her 6 trading monitors. She didn't flinch, but one eyebrow lifted. No one had ever burst into her office. Not even Uncle Richard. Lena stood in the doorway, expensive pajamas hanging off her, wild hair framing eyes that practically burned. She was breathing hard like a trapped animal. Get out, Victoria said to Carla, who hovered, stunned, behind Lena. Carla shut the doors quickly, leaving the two of them alone in the thick silence. What did you do? Lena whispered, her voice shaking with fury. I am working, Victoria replied, turning back to her screens. You are interrupting me. Go back to the West Wing. What did you do? Lena screamed, the sound ricocheting off the perfectly soundproofed walls. She stormed up to the desk, a massive slab of ebony, and slammed both hands down on it. The expensive trinkets scattered across its surface rattled. You paid the bills, Lena spat. You paid the old bills. Victoria finally swiveled her chair to face her. No remorse, no softness, only clinical assessment. Yes, I cleaned up a mess. You should be grateful. Your financial recklessness was a liability. Recklessness? Lena let out a harsh, broken laugh. You call trying to keep my sister alive recklessness? It wasn't a mess. It was my life. It was an unsecured liability. A weakness, Victoria corrected coolly. I cannot have my wife, even in name, only being blackmailed by some low-life collection agency in New Jersey. It's done. It's taken care of. You didn't take care of it, Lena shouted, tears of rage burning in her eyes. You violated me. You dug through my past without asking. That was not part of the deal. The deal is that you belong to me for 1 year, Victoria said, rising to her feet, her voice dropping to something dangerous. And I do not own faulty assets. You concealed information from me. You lied by omission. That put me at risk. I was ashamed, Lena admitted, her voice splintering. I didn't want you. I didn't want anyone to know how badly I'd failed. It was my burden. Not anymore, Victoria replied flatly. It was a wall. Lena could feel it. She was screaming at a wall of bulletproof glass. Victoria didn't get it, or she refused to. She saw everything as a balance sheet. You don't get it, do you? Lena whispered, the rage giving way to a cold, sharp realization. You took everything from me. My freedom, my name. You make me wear your clothes, say your words, smile your smiles. She pointed to her chest. That shame, that burden, that was the only thing left that was actually mine, and you took that too. This was the first time anyone had raised their voice to Victoria Hawley in her own home. The penthouse seemed to hold its breath. Victoria looked at her, stunned, not by the anger, but by the sheer illogicality. She had given this girl everything: money, safety, her sister's health. In return, she asked for only one thing: compliance. And this is what she got. "Are you finished?" Victoria asked coldly. "I saved your sister." "You bought my sister." Lena shot back, her voice sharp as a razor. "You bought me. You bought the doctor. You bought the hospital. You think you can put a price tag on everything and make it go away?" She stepped back from the desk, the trembling gone, replaced by a frightening calm. Victoria watched her, feeling something she had never felt before with Lena. Not analysis, but caution. "She buys the doctor," Lena said, almost to herself. But she didn't know my silence was the most expensive thing. She looked Victoria dead in the eye. "And you just lost it." Lena turned on her heel, not back towards the West Wing, but straight for the private elevator. "Where are you going?" Victoria commanded. "For a walk," Lena said, pressing the elevator button. "I need air. And don't worry, your contract is safe for now." The elevator doors opened. Lena stepped inside, leaving Victoria Hawley alone in her vast office, realizing for the first time that the asset she thought she had under complete control had just proven it had a will of its own. The penthouse's private elevator plunged 98 floors with an almost mocking silence. Lena stood inside it, trembling, still wearing the creme cold cashmere silk pajamas, the prisoner's uniform that Victoria had chosen for her. She didn't have keys. She didn't have a wallet. She only had her rage. The elevator doors opened into the main lobby. The doorman, used to seeing her in designer outfits, froze when he saw her barefoot, hair disheveled. "Good morning, Mrs. Hawley," he stammered, rushing to open the heavy glass door. The Lanonhattan morning air hit her in the face, cold, damp, and smelling of exhaust fumes. It was wonderful. She took a deep breath, the first real air in weeks, and started to walk. "No purpose, just walking." She crossed the sidewalk, weaving through the crowd of businessmen and tourists. They stared at her. A woman in luxurious pajamas walking barefoot on 57th Street. She didn't care. She only made it half a block. A tire screeched at the curb. The jet black leany back glided up beside her, the back window lowering. "Get in the car," Victoria commanded. That voice was not a request. Victoria was sitting in the back seat, perfectly calm, already changed into a charcoal gray business suit. As if the fight 10 minutes ago had never happened. "Leave me alone," Lena seethed, continuing to walk. "Don't be childish." "You are causing a scene," Victoria said, her voice like steel. "Good. Let them look. Let them see what your wife really is," Lena yelled, turning to face the car. A black CUV security detail stopped right behind the Liniebach. 2 large bodyguards got out. Victoria sighed, a sound of utter exasperation. "Lena, you're making us all look like fools. Where do you want to go?" "I will take you, but you will get in this car." The bodyguards were approaching. The crowd was starting to stop. Phones raised, cornered. Lena yanked the car door open. She climbed in, sitting on the opposite side from Victoria as far as possible. "You dictator," she hissed as the door shut, plunging them into soundproof silence. "You emotional?" Victoria retorted, eyes not leaving her iPad. "Drive," she said to the driver. The car pulled smoothly into traffic. "So, what did you just ruin my productive morning for?" Victoria asked. "To go where?" "To buy a pair of shoes to Mount C?" Lena said, her voice cracking. "I want to go to the only place in this world that you haven't completely poisoned with your money. I want to see my sister." Victoria stiffened. She glanced at Lena, the pajamas, the bare feet now filthy from the sidewalk, and the eyes red with anger. Victoria looked down at her own perfect suit. For the first time, she looked uncomfortable. "You cannot go to the hospital like this. Just watch me." Victoria motioned to the driver. "Stop at the Louis Vuitton on 59th? Then she turned to Lena. "We will compromise. You will have shoes, but you will not talk to Emma while you are in this state. You will scare the child to death." So now you control my emotions, too? I am controlling an asset that is behaving erratically, Victoria said flatly. We will go to the hospital. You will sit in the waiting room. You will calm down. Then we will go back. Lena turned to the window. She had lost. Victoria always won. The hallway of the pediatric cardiology ward at Mount C was a foreign world to Victoria. It smelled of antiseptic and burnt coffee. The fluorescent lighting was too harsh, not like the calculated lighting in her penthouse. They sat in an empty family waiting room. Lena, now in a pair of simple black heels that Carla in the trailing SUV had run in to buy, was huddled on a beige plastic chair. Victoria stood by the window, looking down at a concrete courtyard. She looked completely out of place. Her power was useless here. You really hate this, don't you? Lena spoke up, her voice. Nothing is marble. No one for you to command. This place is inefficient, Victoria murmured, loosening the silk scarf at her neck. This is a place that saves people. This is where my sister was saved. The place you paid to save her, Lena said. Victoria turned around. And that's the problem, isn't it? That I paid? That I solved it? You would rather have let your sister die while you kept your dignity of debt. That slap was as painful as a physical blow. You have no right, Lena shot to her feet. You have no right to judge me. You don't know what it feels like to be powerless. You don't know what it's like to choose between food and medicine. No, I don't, Victoria admitted, her voice sharp as a knife. I know what it feels like to choose between losing my father's company or taking a drastic measure. We all do what we have to do. No, Lena shouted, the echo small in the sterile room. Don't compare your sacrifice to mine. You sit on top of the world and trade people like stocks. You bought me, she stepped forward, pushing Victoria in the chest. It was a weak push, but defiant. Victoria didn't budge. You bought me, Lena repeated, her voice breaking, tears finally falling. You took my name. You took my body for the cameras. And when you dug through my past, you took the only thing I had left, my shame. At least it was mine. She was sobbing, pounding on Victoria's chest futilely. I'm nothing. I'm just a thing you own. I hate you. I hate you for doing this to me. Victoria, the woman who could face down hostile negotiations and Senate hearings, was completely paralyzed. She had never been touched in anger. She had never faced this kind of raw, uncontrolled emotion. Stop, Victoria commanded. But her voice had lost its authority. Why? So you can buy me another necklace so you can handle me? Lena cried, grabbing the lapels of Victoria's suit. I said stop. Victoria grabbed Lena's wrists to stop her. But Lena didn't stop. She was collapsing. In a desperate act to regain control, to extinguish the emotional storm she couldn't understand, Victoria did the only thing she could think of. She pulled Lena forward and kissed her. It was not the kiss at City Hall. That kiss was cold and calculated. This kiss was chaos. It was a punishment, an attempt to put out the fire. Victoria's lips crushed against Lena's, rough and demanding. It was more a battle of wills than a caress. Lena froze for a second, shocked to her core, and then she melted. The anger, the fear, the loneliness of the past 6 weeks, it all converged and shattered. She kissed back, not with love, but with desperation. Her hands released Victoria's lapels, clutching Victoria's shoulders as if she were drowning. The kiss shifted from angry to exploratory. For the first time, Victoria wasn't the CEO. She wasn't the buyer, and Lena wasn't the asset. They were just two women in a hospital waiting room, completely out of control. Victoria's lips were softer than Lena had imagined. She tasted like expensive black coffee and something metallic like power. It lasted 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The jarring sound of the phone in Victoria's pocket set to an emergency vibrate broke it. They pulled back, panting. Lena looked at Victoria, her lips swollen, eyes wide with horror and confusion. Victoria looked back, and for the first time her mask was broken. She looked scared. Her gray eyes weren't cold. They were chaotic. Victoria flinched as if waking from a dream. She pulled out her phone. Carla, I said. She looked at the screen and all the blood drained from her face. She was paler than the hospital walls. No, she whispered. What? Lena asked, hastily, wiping the tears and the kiss from her face. Victoria, is something wrong with Emma? Victoria didn't hear her. She was staring at her phone, trembling. It was a small tremor, almost unnoticeable. But for Victoria, it was like an earthquake. Victoria! Lena shouted, grabbing her arm. Victoria turned the phone around. It was a news alert from the New York Post and TMZ and Bloomberg all arriving at the same time. The Post's headline, Evelyn's $10 million bride. TMZ's headline, exclusive CEO stay. Claire's marriage contract leaked. And below the headline was a photo, not a paparazzi shot. It was a scan. The last page of the contract Lena had signed. Clear as day. Victoria Hale's signature. Lena Cruz's trembling signature. And the line right above it. Total compensation. $10 million. $10 million. It was out. Someone had betrayed them. Oh no, Lena whispered. Oh my God, who? How? Victoria looked up at Lena, her face a picture of cold devastation. The chaos. The fear, the confusion from the kiss, it was all gone. In its place was something new, something terrible. Suspicion. You, Victoria said, her voice dead. What? No, Lena recoiled, feeling as if she had been slapped. You said it, Victoria whispered, her mind racing, connecting the dots. My silence was the most expensive thing. You fought with me. You staged this, Victoria. No, I would never. Who did you call when you stormed out? Victoria growled, advancing on Lena. Who did you sell it to? Beatrice? Serena? How much did they pay you? More than 10 million? That kiss was real. And that was why everything started to fall apart. Because the moment Victoria let her wall down, the moment she felt something real, the knife had gone into her back. I didn't do it, Lena cried. Get out of my sight, Victoria said, her voice as sharp as broken glass. Her phone rang. This time it was Uncle Richard. Victoria turned her back on Lena, the woman she had just kissed, the woman she believed had just destroyed her. She answered the phone, her voice cold again, but dead inside. Richard, it appears we have a problem. The sterile hospital waiting room suddenly became suffocating as a tomb. Lena's note dissolved into the air, weak against the harsh truth displaying on Victoria's phone screen. The $10 million bride. You think I did this? Lena stammered, a feeling of nausea washing over her. The kiss was still hot on her lips, the taste of bergamot and power now tasting like ashes. Victoria didn't answer. She just looked at Lena, and the chaos in her gray eyes from the moment they kissed had frozen solid. The ice wall was not just rebuilt. It had been reinforced with barbed wire. Victoria's vulnerability, though fleeting, had disappeared, replaced by a cold, deadly rage. She had made a mistake. She had shown weakness. She had felt. And this was the price. Victoria, I swear, Lena pleaded, stepping forward. I would never daunt, Victoria commanded, holding up a hand. Her voice was no longer that of a lover, not even of a human. It was the voice of the board. Don't touch me. She turned her back on Lena, pressing the phone to her ear, answering Uncle Richard's call. Richard, everything is still under control. Her voice was even cold, as if she were reporting on market fluctuations. There was a leak, a breach of contract on Miss Tao's part. I'm handling it. Lena was stunned. Miss Cruz, not Lena. No, I am not worried about the board, Victoria continued, walking into the hallway. I am worried about liquidating an asset. She hung up, not letting Richard respond. She dialed another number. Carla, activate clause 7.4 of contract mount. Immediate termination on grounds of breach of the non-disclosure agreement. Lena rushed after her into the hallway, not caring about the staring nurses. termination. Victoria, you can't do this. I didn't do anything. Victoria turned back, facing her under the harsh fluorescent lights. I can't. I misjudged you, Miss Cruz. I thought you were desperate. I didn't know you were also greedy. Greedy? My silence was the most expensive thing. Those were your words, weren't they? Victoria said, her voice full of contempt. You fought with me. Then you sold the story to the Post. A perfect little drama to drive up the bidding. I hope it was worth it. You're wrong, Lena screamed, helpless tears streaming down. I don't care about the money. I don't care what you want, Victoria interrupted. Carla, do you hear me? Transfer the full $10 million into her trust account. I want this deal over the full. Lena didn't understand, but if I breached, I don't want to sue you. A lawsuit just prolongs the story, Victoria said tiredly. I want you gone. The full amount is in exchange for you shutting up permanently. Take your money, take care of your sister, and never appear in front of me again. Victoria's 2 bodyguards, who had been waiting at the end of the hall, now stepped forward. No, Victoria, please. That kiss, Lena whispered. Her last weapon was the truth. Victoria looked at her, her face devoid of emotion. What kiss? I don't know what you're talking about. That was an unfortunate lapse in control. A mistake that will not be repeated. She turned to the bodyguards. Take Miss Cruz to the safe apartment on the East River. Ensure she doesn't take anything from the penthouse. The West Wing will be sanitized tonight. She is not allowed back. Yes, ma'am. They grabbed Lena's arms. Victoria, don't do this. Lena struggled. I didn't betray you. I didn't betray you. Victoria Hawley did not turn her head. She walked down the hospital hallway, her posture straight, powerful, the Ice Queen once more. She left Lena with her own screams being escorted away like a criminal while their world was burning violently. 3 days later, the 98th floor penthouse was a war room. Lawyers, PR specialists, and senior executives of Hawley Holdings were gathered around Victoria's glass conference table. The air was thick with the smell of expensive coffee and controlled panic. And the Post refuses to reveal its source, citing the First Amendment, the chief counsel said. We can sue them, but they will win. Then we change the narrative, Victoria declared. She hadn't slept in 72 hours, but she looked sharper than ever. Her charcoal gray suit was like a suit of armor. What's the strategy? A PR specialist asked. Transparency, Victoria said, stunning the room. We admit it. It wasn't a marriage contract. It was a personal security agreement and a tight prenuptial agreement. Lena Cruz was a waitress I fell in love with, but she came from a dangerous world. Her debts were a risk. She was spinning the story. I paid her debts to protect her and my company from blackmail. And she panicked, mistaking my kindness for control. She ran. She was painting Lena as a panicked, unstable, and pitiful Cinderella. And she, Victoria, was the victim of a misunderstood, generous heart. It was a brilliant move. It explained the money, shut down the scandal, and painted the image of a strong CEO who nonetheless had a heart. The stock, after plummeting 12% the day the news broke, began to stabilize. The board had calmed down. Uncle Richard was satisfied. Victoria had won again. That night, the storm had passed. The lawyers were gone. The penthouse was silent. Too silent. Victoria poured herself a mull, ice melting. She walked past the main hall, heading for the East Wing, but she stopped. The door leading to the West Wing was open. The cleaning crew had finished their work. On an impulse she couldn't explain, Victoria stepped inside. The room was empty. The sapphire dress from the gala was gone. The cashmere pajamas had gone. The art books she had made Lena study were still there, stacked neatly. The room was sterile. Not a trace of Lena ever existing. Carla had done her job well. Victoria went to the window where Lena used to stand, looking down at the Hudson River. She hated the silence. It was worse than Lena's screaming. She looked down at the floor. The cleaning crew had missed something. Lying face down on the carpet, half hidden under the bed, was a picture frame. Victoria bent down, picking it up. It was not in a spare frame like the one she owned. It was a cheap plastic frame, blue, the $5 kind from a pharmacy. Inside was a worn photo of Lena and Emma, the two sisters beaming, braces on their teeth at some cheap amusement park. They were holding ice cream cones. Happy real. Victoria turned the frame over. The back was held on with tape. She stared at the photo. This was what Lena had brought from her old apartment. This was the only thing that was truly hers in this gilded cage. And when she was dragged away, she didn't have time to take it. The money was transferred. The contract was complete. The PR storm was under control. Victoria Hawley stood in the empty room holding a $5 picture frame. Why was her heart still empty? Lena was in a different cage. The high-rise apartment on the East River was beautiful, overlooking the Queensboro Bridge, furnished in the minimalist, expensive style she guessed was classic Victoria. Her bank account had 8 figures. She had called Mount C. All of Emma's future bills until she was 21 were prepaid. She had one. She had saved her sister. She was rich, but she was a prisoner. She turned on the TV. Every channel sources close say that Mrs. Hawley and Miss Cruz felt suffocated by the CEO's generosity. A tragic Cinderella story of greed. Victoria Hawley, a victim of her own heart. They were crucifying her. Victoria hadn't just pushed her away. She was burying her alive under a perfect PR story. She was the exposed gold digger. She threw the TV remote at the plasma wall. It shattered. She collapsed onto the cold marble floor. She had all the money in the world, but she had nothing. She had no name. She had no honor. And the worst part was she missed her. She missed the smell of bergamot. She missed the fake sense of safety when Victoria caught her on the stairs. And she hated herself for remembering the kiss that had ruined everything. She thought she had betrayed her. That thought hurt more than the TV headlines. I have to find out, Lena whispered to the empty room. I have to know who did this. Not for Victoria, for herself. Meanwhile, back in the East Wing, Victoria was still staring at the photo. An uncomfortable feeling, a loose detail was gnawing at her. Why would Lena leave this? If she had planned the betrayal, why not take her only precious thing? Victoria put the photo down. She went back to her office. It was 3 a.m. She called her internal security team, not PR, not the lawyers, her fixer team. I want to know who leaked the contract, she commanded. Not what the post says. I want the truth. I want to know every incoming and outgoing communication from Lena Cruz for the past 6 weeks. Every email, every text. We already did, Mom. The head of security's voice came through. Nothing. Miss Cruz is completely clean. No contact with any media outlets. No suspicious calls. Nothing. Victoria stiffened. That's impossible. Yes, ma'am. But while scanning for other potential threats, we reviewed the security footage from the mom gala. A video file appeared on Victoria's screen. It was security footage from a hidden angle near the stairs right after Beatrice Duca insulted Lena. Look there, the head of security said. The video showed Beatrice Duca backing away after Victoria growled at her. She pulled out her phone, but she didn't make a call. She handed the phone to a man beside her, a cater waiter holding a tray. The waiter glanced around, ducked into a service hallway, and made a call. That waiter was fired the next day for stealing alcohol. The head of security said, "We found him." He said, Beatrice Duca paid him $5,000 to take a picture not of you and Lena, but of the contract. Victoria wasn't breathing. How did she get it? We're checking on that. It looks like someone from our legal team. But, ma'am, the waiter kept a copy. Has the one who sold it to the Post this week? After realizing what it was worth, Victoria shut off the video. The room was spinning. The waiter, Beatrice, not Lena. It was never Lena. Lena had screamed she was innocent. She had cried. She had pleaded. And Victoria, blinded by her pride and the pain of being weak after the kiss, had accused her. She had destroyed Lena's reputation to save her own. She was wrong. Completely wrong. Victoria Hale, the woman who was never wrong, slumped into her chair, finally realizing the true cost of this leak. 3:14 a.m., the 98th floor penthouse was steeped in darkness, except for the cold blue light from the 6 monitors in Victoria's office. Victoria Hale was still wearing the suit from yesterday. It was wrinkled. Her hair, usually in a neat bun, had come undone. She had not slept. On her desk, next to the untouched glass of Lena Collin, was the $5 plastic frame, the photo of Lena and Emma, a relic of the truth. She was wrong. Those 2 simple words repeated in her head, heavier than any loss on the market. She wasn't just wrong. She had been cruel. Hurt by a kiss, by her own moment of weakness. She had used her entire multi-billion-dollar arsenal to destroy an innocent person. She had created the exposed gold digger story. She had painted Lena as a treacherous, greedy person. All to hide one simple truth. She was scared. The security report lay on her desk clear. Source of leak. Beatrice Duca. Agent. Mama. Waiter. Motive. Revenge. Not Lena. Victoria closed her eyes. The image of Lena crying in the hospital hallway returned. I didn't betray you. Her voice had been drowned out by Victoria's pride. Now what? Victoria Hale always had a plan. She picked up the phone. Plan A used money. Carla, she said, her voice. Contact the Post, PMZ. Issue a news statement. Say we have discovered the real source of the leak. That Miss Cruz has been cleared. Carla's voice, even at 3 a.m., was sharp. Impossible. Lenon, we just won. The market stabilized because of our unstable Cinderella story. If we retract now, it means you lied. The board will oust you before breakfast. It will look like she successfully blackmailed you. It will destroy everything. Carla was right. Victoria hung up. She had trapped herself in a cage of her own lies. She couldn't use money or power to get out. She couldn't issue a press release to fix another press release. She looked at the photo, happy, real. She had destroyed it. Victoria stood up. If power couldn't fix it, she would have to use something else. Something she hadn't used in years, something she wasn't even sure she still possessed. The truth. She dialed another number, a private number she had never, R.KL Barbara. It's Victoria Hale, she said, her voice returning to its authority. But there was a crack in it. Yes, the new Barbara Walters of media. I need an interview live tonight. No preconditions, and you will get the story of your life. The apartment on the East River was a gilded cage. Lena had been here for 4 days living on black coffee and rage. The TV was on replaying images of her surrounded by paparazzi with the headline, "The Gold Digger is Gone." Victoria had turned her into the villain in her own tragic story. The $10 million balance in her account seemed to mock her. She thinks she's won, Lena muttered at Victoria's image on the TV. She thinks she can buy me, fire me, and bury me alive. But the Lena of 6 weeks ago was dead. That timid waitress was gone. This new girl, this girl had kissed the Ice Queen. She had survived the fall. And by day, she has $10 million. Lena picked up the phone, but she did not call Emma. She called Kroll, the most expensive private investigation firm on the planet. My name is Lena Cruz, she said, her voice cold and clear, mimicking the exact tone she had heard Victoria use. I want to hire you. I have reason to believe the Hale scandal is related to a person named Beatrice Duca. I want to know everything she did, everyone she met in the 72 hours surrounding the mom gala. Ill-paid double. I want the results tonight. She hung up. She was using Victoria's own dirty money to buy back her truth. She had learned she was using her power. This wasn't about getting back at Victoria. This was about getting her name back. 2 hours later, an encrypted email arrived. It was full of expense reports, blurry security camera images, and a call recording. It all pointed to Beatrice. The meeting with the waiter? The $5,000 payment. Lena had it. Proof. Now what? She wondered. take it to the press. They wouldn't believe her. They would say this was another fake stunt by the gold digger. She needed something bigger. She needed Victoria herself too. Just then, her phone vibrated with a news alert. Breaking Evelyn St. Clair to sit for exclusive live interview with Barbara Novak. In minutes, Lena's heart pounded. Another show, she whispered. She turned on the TV, ready to hate every lie that was about to be spoken. The TV screen showed a minimalist, elegant set. Victoria Hawley sat opposite Barbara Novak, the most feared journalist in America. Victoria looked different. Her hair was down. She was wearing a simple dark blue cashmere sweater, not a power suit, no armor. "Miss Hawley," Barbara began, wasting no time. "3 days ago, the world learned of your contract marriage. Your team painted a picture of a young, unstable, greedy girl. A girl who ran when she got the money. Tonight, she's somewhere out there, hated by the world. Are you comfortable with that?" In the apartment on the East River, Lena held her breath. "Say it, Victoria." "Lie again." Victoria looked straight into the camera. Her gray eyes weren't cold. They were tired, and they were regretful. "No," Victoria said. "I am not comfortable." She took a breath. "In fact, I am here tonight to correct a grave mistake." Barbara raised an eyebrow. "A mistake?" "The story my team released was a lie," Victoria said, her clear voice echoing in the studio's silence. "A lie that I allowed and that I hid behind because the truth was even more shameful." Both the studio and Lena's apartment fell silent. "The truth," Victoria continued, ignoring the PR specialist frantically signaling her off camera, "is that Lena Cruz did not betray me." Lena shot to her feet, knocking over her coffee cup. "The truth is that I was wrong," Victoria said. And this time she wasn't talking to Barbara. She was talking to Lena. "I kissed her. And right after the contract was leaked, I panicked. I assumed it was her. I took my shame and my pride out on her. One chose my company over a person." Tears started to stream down Lena's face. Lena did not leak the contract. It was a competitor, Beatrice Duca, as an act of revenge. Lena Cruz was a victim. First of circumstance and then of me. Barbara was stunned. "Miss Hawley, do you realize what you just did? You just admitted to misleading the market. Your board will." "I don't care about the board tonight." Victoria interrupted the intensity returning. "I broke a clause in our contract. The trust clause. I publicly slandered her. I broke it, not her." Victoria looked straight into the lens. Her heart was pounding like a war drum. This was the biggest gamble of her life, bigger than any merger. "Lena," she said, breaking every media rule. "I am sorry. Everything I lied about was to cover up one truth. That kiss was not a mistake." Click. The TV went off. The Ice Queen had melted. She was fighting for her on national television. And Lena, hands still trembling on the remote, was running for the door. She didn't care about Beatrice. She didn't care about the money. She just knew she had to go there. She was running to Victoria. The TV studio was in chaos. As soon as the cameras turned off, Victoria Hawley did not collapse. She simply stopped. She sat motionless in the interview chair, her silence more frightening than any scream. All the adrenaline had left her body, leaving a cold, empty void. "Victoria." Carla burst onto the set, her face pale. "What the hell did you just do?" "Your phone, Richard." "The entire board. They are calling an emergency vote." "Let them," Victoria whispered, her voice. She had burned the bridge. Now she would just watch it burn. She stood up, unclipping the microphone from her sweater. Barbara Novak, the journalist, approached, her expression no longer professional. It was respect. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen on air," she said softly. "Or the most insane?" "Perhaps both," Victoria replied. She walked off the set, moving through the hallways like a sleepwalker. Her PR team retreated as if she were a leper. She had broken the cardinal rule. Never admit. Her phone in Carla's hand was vibrating incessantly. The new headlines were already out. Victoria admits I lied. St. Clair scandal. CEO self-destructs to clear fake bride. Claire's stock plummets in after-hours trading. The parking garage exit is swarmed, Carla said, trying to pull her boss in another direction. Reporters everywhere. No, Victoria said, we walk through them. She had lied to escape one scandal. She would not run after telling the truth. She pushed open the exit door. The flashes exploded. A forest of microphones was shoved in her face. The shouting was deafening. Victoria, will you resign? Is the board firing you? Where is Lena Cruz? Her bodyguards tried to form a path to the waiting Linnybach. Victoria just walked, eyes straight ahead, expressionless. Please clear a path. Clear a path. And then through the noise, through the storm of flashes, a voice cut through. Evelyn. Victoria stopped. That was not a reporter's shout. A young woman wearing just a simple t-shirt and jeans clothes she had grabbed in a hurry was fighting her way past the security line. She had just jumped out of a yellow taxi that still had its door open. It was Lena. She had been crying. Her hair was a mess and she was running. Lena, a bodyguard, recognized her and tried to block her. No, let her through. Victoria commanded. The security line parted. Lena Cruz burst through, stumbled on the sidewalk, and stopped 3 feet in front of Victoria. The world went silent. Every camera focused on them. They just looked at each other. Lena looked at the woman who had just given up her empire on national television. Victoria looked at the woman who had returned to the center of the storm for her. You, Lena panted, unable to speak. What are you doing here? Victoria asked, her voice breaking. They're crucifying me. You should be running far away. I tried. Lena whispered, tears welling up again. But this time not from pain. But you did the one thing I couldn't. You told the truth. She stepped forward. No, hesitation. She placed her hand on Victoria's cheek, wiping away a tear. Victoria didn't even know she was crying. Click, 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 click. The photo that would be on the front page of every paper tomorrow. Not the queen and the gold digger. Just 2 women in the middle of a storm. You are such an idiot, Lena whispered. I know, Victoria replied. Let's go, Lena said, taking Victoria's hand, not a fake handhold for the cameras, but a tight protective grip. Let's go home. The Linnybach was like a mobile soundproof bunker gliding through the chaotic crowd. Inside, the silence was heavy. Lena still held Victoria's hand. Victoria's hand was ice cold. The penthouse is surrounded, Carla said from the front seat, her voice strained. I've routed the driver. We can go to the safe house in Greenwich. No, Victoria said. Home. She squeezed Lena's hand. We're going home. As the car entered the private tunnel beneath the building, the intercom, the red line, finally rang. The line connected to only one person. Victoria looked at it. It's him, she said. Uncle Richard, answer it, Lena said. But this time, not alone. Victoria pressed the speakerphone button. Ellen Richard Hale's voice was not cold steel. It was a roar of fury. What have you done? Do you have any idea what you just did to the stock price? To your father's legacy? I just saved it, Richard. Victoria said, her voice tired but firm. Saved it? You publicly admitted to defrauding shareholders. You just handed Beatrice Duca a $1 billion lawsuit. You fool, Beatrice won't sue, Victoria said. Because if she does, I will present the evidence that she bribed staff and conspired to manipulate the market. I lied, but she committed a crime first. A stunned silence from the other end. It doesn't matter, Richard finally said. The board has lost faith. They want you out, Victoria. Unless you claim this was a temporary mental breakdown, that girl manipulated you. Lena stiffened. Victoria looked at Lena, then spoke into the phone. That girl's name is Lena Hawley, my wife. And she did not manipulate me. She saved me. Don't be a fool, Victoria. This is your company. It's just a company, Victoria said. And as she said it, she realized it was true. Richard, I am not resigning. But if the board wishes to vote to remove me, I will accept their judgment. But know this, if I go, I take my 51% with me, and I will sell it to Serena Locke. It was a nuclear strike. Richard choked. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Victoria said. I am done hiding. I am done playing my father's games. I choose her. That is my final decision as CEO. She disconnected the call. The car was silent. Lena looked at her astonished. You'd really sell to Serena. Victoria turned to her, and for the first time in weeks, a tired but genuine smile appeared. Of course not. She's a terrible negotiator. But Richard doesn't need to know that. The private elevator opened to the penthouse. Outside, all of Manhattan was still screaming. The press, the stock market, the board. But inside, for the first time, the place felt peaceful. Victoria walked in as if seeing the place for the first time. She went straight to her East Wing office. Lena followed her. On the ebony desk, under the soft lighting, lay the one object that did not belong, the $5 plastic frame. Lena stopped touching it. You kept this. I couldn't throw it away, Victoria admitted, standing beside her. It was the only real thing in this room. Not anymore, Lena said, turning to face Victoria. Not tonight. They stood inches apart. No cameras, no contract, no lies. Victoria's scent of bergamot and cedar mixed with the smell of the Manhattan night air on Lena's clothes. I've destroyed everything, Victoria said again, her voice full of remorse. They'll probably fire me in the morning. I could lose it all. So what? Lena asked. If you lose it all, what will you do? Victoria looked at her. The confusion of someone who had never thought about after. I don't know. Learn to cook, read a book that isn't about finance. Sounds awful, Lena teased, smiling. It's terrifying, Victoria admitted. Good then, Lena said. You'll need a partner. Victoria looked into Lena's warm brown eyes. No more fear, no more anger, just home. Victoria turned back to her desk. She picked up the solid gold Mont Blanc pen, the one that had signed the first contract. She took a sheet of her personal heavy cream-colored stationery. She struck a line through the embossed Victoria Hawley at the top. Below it, she wrote, New contract. Then she turned the paper toward Lena. The old contract is void, Victoria said, her voice firm. The new one has only one clause. She pushed the pen toward Lena. Stay. Lena looked at the word, then at Victoria. Tears welled up again, but this time they were tears of joy. She took the pen. Just one clause. Sounds too simple for you, Victoria. I'm working on simple. Victoria smiled. All right, Lena said. She didn't sign. Instead, she wrote below Victoria's line. Clause 2, Lena wrote. You have to smile. For real, sometimes. Victoria actually chuckled a genuine sound. I can try. Lena lowered her gaze and continued writing. Clause 3. Never call me an asset again unless we both agree. A faint flush rose on Victoria's cheeks. Noted. Lena set the pen down. All right. Now it's a deal. She didn't sign her name. Instead, she leaned across the desk, fisted her hands in the lapels of Victoria's cashmere sweater, and pulled her into a kiss. This kiss wasn't like the one at City Hall, sealed like an acquisition. It wasn't like the one born from anger in the hospital. This one was a promise. It was unhurried, gentle, and tasted like forgiveness. When they finally parted, Victoria rested her forehead against Lena's. So signed, Victoria whispered. Signed, Lena echoed. Welcome to the first negotiation you ever lost. Miss Hawley! I'm not convinced I lost, Victoria replied. And she drew Lena back into another kiss, just as the first light of dawn began to spill over their city. Thank you for listening to the ICEO's Contract Bride. What moment touched you the most? Tell me in the comments. If you'd like more stories like this, follow the channel and share this video to help spread the love.